If you and your team have a lot of options that you put together in a brainstorming session, for example, and you want to narrow down that to one or a handful of options to try first, dot voting is a great technique to try. It gives everybody on the team a voice and it's quick and easy, but it's not without its flaws. And in this video, I'm going to look at what dot voting is, how to go about it, what some of those flaws are, and how to deal with them. Dot voting has been around since the 1980s, and it is a tool used by facilitators to drive a team, a group, to a consensus. So if you're trying to, one of the typical things you do when you're trying to come up with a new idea is you will put a lot of ideas on the table. You'll do what they call diverging. Let's get a lot of ideas out there. Scamper is a great method for that. And then once you have all those options, you want some method to look at all those options as a group and identify the front runners, the things you want to try first. So the way a dot vote works is typically in brainstorming sessions, you'll have, say, for example, a series of Post-it notes from everybody or their ideas written on sheets of paper. But whatever you do, you want to have them assembled in a place where everybody can see them and access them. And then you give everybody dots, paper, labels that they can affix to each one of those options. And then you say that you want people to take the time to review all the options and then apply the dots to their favorite or the ones they think are most likely to be successful. And then at the end, you can tally the votes on those options. One of the problems that can come up with dot voting is you can experience overwhelm. If you look at my other videos, some of them are on the subject of Scamper, which is an idea generation technique. If you use Scamper, you can actually have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to ideas. There can be way too many ideas to be considered in one sitting. If you and I are on a team and there's 6 of us, which is a pretty good number for dot voting, you want about 6 or 7 people. You multiply 6 by 7 or 7 by 7, you got 49 potential options to wade through. That can be exhausting. So whereas brainstorming, you typically say you want as many ideas as possible and you want people to make them available to others because they could inspire other ideas so that they feed on each other and improve each other. You don't really have that option in a dot vote on its own. You actually want to say to people, let's say we have 7 people at the table, that they probably only want to post publicly on the wall their 2 favorites, the 2 they think are most likely to succeed. And that way you have a more manageable number of somewhere between a dozen and 14 options to go through. As I said, this is contrary to what brainstorming typically advises. The brainstorming technique is that you let 1,000 flowers bloom and you hope that there is some, pardon the pun, cross-pollination between those flowers and that you can get new ideas to come. And that's fine. You can brainstorm leading up to a dot vote, but once you get to the dot vote, you want to restrict your options to about a dozen. The other interesting problem with dot voting is that you can split the vote. We've seen this in democracy, in elections, but you can also find this happening in the dot vote. So let's say that we are 6 people and just off the cuff we're going out for lunch and we want to decide where to go for lunch. We decide, well, we haven't managed to come to a consensus as a group just talking, so let's just use a dot vote. It's a quick technique, let's try it. Let's say that the center of gravity, that most people in the group would probably be happy or delighted with the idea of going out for pizza. Well, then you might have 3 people on the team saying different pizza restaurants. And then the other 3 people on the team might say other restaurants as well. And so by 3 people saying pizza, you've actually split the vote. Even though everybody might want pizza or be happy with pizza, because the votes are distributed across 3 pizza places, the steak joint might become the first choice, or going out for Chinese or whatever the other options are may get more dots. Even though if you consolidated the 3 pizza options, that would be the highest voted one. To address that, the facilitator should really take a hard look at the options that are presented. So let's say we have 12 options. Take a hard look at them and see if there are ideas that could, for at least for the purpose of voting, be consolidated because they're so similar. You generally want to get people on the group to agree, but it's pretty easy. You just say, it looks like these 2 are pretty similar. Can we put them together? Generally, people will be happy to do so, and then you can vote, and it may well be that that becomes the most popular option. Anytime that you rely on a consensus, when you rely on the opinions of people in the room, there's always the chance that that opinion will be flawed. Lots of studies have been done and have come to the conclusion that when you apply multiple people's thoughts to a problem, you're going to get a better result than if any one of them were asked. A dot vote is really a way of identifying the center of gravity of opinion in the room. And that center of gravity of opinion may be wrong. It may well be that people have come together and come to a conclusion that just doesn't work. Many of the modern approaches to solving problems involve iteration. That includes design thinking, lean startup, design sprints, growth hacking. All of these approaches say, let's try something, let's do our best guess, and then evaluate the result and improve what we do going forward. And because the dot votes are very much in that realm, that modern approach to things where let's quickly come up with a decision. A dot vote is a perfect tool for that. Let's drive to a consensus, let's try something, learn more, and then we'll try it again. And so I don't think you need to get too bent out of shape about the perfection of the dot vote. The dot vote is a way to get moving quickly and try something. And so your next step, when you do another iteration, you may find yourself doing another dot vote, but the people in the room are now better informed. As a result of having done the experiment, they'll have enough information to make a better decision next time. Also, if you go through the various ideas of the group and they don't work, well, you're going to work your way down the list. So even if you're not perfect at ranking the list of options, you're eventually going to get to one of the higher options, and the ones above have already been attempted and maybe not succeeded, or maybe they did, but now you're down to the next idea. Iteration lets you get to that idea even if that wasn't the first vote. Dot voting does come with a risk of groupthink. The people who are ahead of you when they dot vote are going to leave evidence of that dot vote that you will see, and that may influence your thinking. And so things can become self-reinforcing. The first votes are the loudest, and that is not the point of dot voting. Dot voting is supposed to give everybody an independent voice. Another problem with dot voting that I haven't seen, but others who have facilitated meetings using dot votes have seen in real life, is people actually doing dot fraud. So they'll move a dot from one option to another because they're in love with that particular option, or they'll sneak in extra dots. It sounds crazy, but apparently it does happen. The problems of groupthink and dot fraud can be avoided by using online tools. I'll put a link to one in the show notes. Basically, it's just a simple tool that lets you send out through email an invitation to vote online, and you can have your options listed there, and people can rearrange them and put them in an order very simply just by dragging and dropping, and then the votes are automatically tallied. So that's one way to get away from the problems of doing it on paper in front of people. Thanks for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. If you go to the show notes, you'll find a link to a PDF on Scamper. I mentioned this earlier. It's a technique that can be used to come up with as many options as you would like, sometimes too many options, but it's a great place to go, a great technique to use if you get stuck. That's in the show notes below. Anyway, thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.